what you want to do about time, we can certainly go lots of other places.
But I think what makes Iraq War unique is there's so many reserves and National Guards
Yes.
who are being activated,
Yes.
who never planned on being activated. They use the reserves as a part-time job
Yep.
to supplement their family income.
Yep.
And now they have to go.
Yep. And the preliminary evidence suggests that they're having a harder time in adjusting, or they're getting hit harder not because they're more vulnerable, because it's harder. The reservists are less likely to be deployed with their unit. They may go in scattered bits. If you're active duty, you have a job when you come back. The Army takes care of that, and the forces tend to take care of family while they're gone. But there's no guarantee. Lots of reservists have lost jobs or were unable to come back. And some are homeless when they come back, so they don't have nearly the security in the sort of the bases of their lives that the active duty service members do to come back to. So I think the reservists are, in general, to be at a little more risk than the active duty folks. Yeah.
Can you explain the difference between post-traumatic stress syndrome and this grieving that you were talking about earlier?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to be very clinical here. The hallmark features of post-traumatic stress disorder are, one, exposure to a trauma, a life-threatening event, something that puts me in a position of being dramatically out of control of my own life or my own well-being, or exposed to profound disfigurement or threat to others. Let's see if I can get this all right. And then blunting or damping, that is not being able to remember events or blocking emotions, re-experiencing intrusive recollections, nightmares, flashbacks, things like that. Hypervigilance, startled, just being on guard all the time. I think those are the main components. And this is not a responsible scholarly statement, but my own take on it is it's as though two things are happening. One is that your adrenaline system, your fight-flight system is sort of rewired. Because imagine you're in a place where your vigilance, your safety and that of the people around you depends on your vigilance all the time. And that's that's another thing true about Vietnam and Iraq. There's no front line, so these guys are vigilant all the time. And it just, you can't reset it after that. We do have very good therapies, behavioral therapies that work certainly for circumscribed traumas and some for combat trauma. But medications really are important in trying to help people to calm down those symptoms. The other part does lapse over into grieving. It has to do with having the roadmap that I carried around in my head for who I am and how my world works just completely violated by things that I've gone through. And and now I have to rewrite the roadmap somehow to make it fit who I am. That really is, I would say, the core of grieving, and the emotions that we associate commonly with grieving are what we naturally experience as we go through the process of rewriting the roadmap. So that part is akin to grieving, but the sort of hardwired changes and continued vigilance and intrusion are very different.
Survival guilt has been a serious issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And this really isn't, and I don't think that's, there are a number of things that they always go along with PTSD. I don't think that's part of the DSM diagnosis, but another one that I see a lot, particularly with, I think without question, all of the Vietnam vets that I'm still working with, they all have this, they're working through this alienation, just feeling some real qualms, some real misgivings about just how they were treated, about feeling alienated from the government, from the society, and so forth. It's very striking to me, and I don't think that's kept them from functioning, but it's very striking how consistently these folks are still working through that these 40 years later.
But when the Vietnam War vets came home, which I was of that era, and I got drafted and blah, 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 when we came home, we were not treated respectfully from the public in general.
Yep.
Where the Iraqi vets are treated very well and respectfully from the general public.
And that's even an issue. I hear a lot of our Vietnam vets ambivalent. On one hand, happy that these folks are being treated well. On the other hand, feeling maybe a little resentful
A whole lot resentful.
that I didn't get the same treatment. Yeah.
Yes.
But if it hadn't been for the Vietnam vets pushing their issues since they came back, the Iraqi vets, I don't think would be getting as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Somebody has to pay the price.
But it was heroic. Right, there were some huge things that happened, and some real activism that sort of jump-started the system. Absolutely, without which we'd be doing a worse job. I hope. I mean, certainly around PTSD, we're doing a much better job in treating PTSD. We understand it well. We're doing better. There are now. What's another whole talk? But at the Batavia VA Medical Center is one of, I think, 4 or 5 women's residential PTSD programs in the country. And that's one place we're doing better also, is respecting and treating women's issues. Still, I mean, that's a big push, just like pain management. We've improved, we have farther to go.
But you're still not there.
Yeah. Yes?
Is there any extreme symptoms like shaking, like malaria type of shaking from all of this post-traumatic stress?
Only indirectly, meaning folks will be so agitated that there's sort of a motor activation in some folks, you know, that they're just jittery and always moving, but not tremor, for example.
I see.
How does the federal budget look as far as funding goes?
Who knows? I mean, I don't mean to be flip. Yeah, there has been a massive infusion of money and mandates, particularly around mental health issues in the VA. And so, just as an example, 5 years ago we had 13 doctoral psychologists at our hospital. When we're done, if we hire all the positions that we're supposed to hire, we have 21.8. So we've grown massively. And again, and my own opinion is that mental health in our culture and in the healthcare system, including the VA healthcare system, has been stigmatized. You know, they were far more willing to spend money on medical care than PTSD and mental health. Well, because of the issues about our Iraq and Afghanistan veterans and the political issues that have come of it, now suddenly, you know, there's a lot more support and interest in taking care of those things. The VA system has really put a lot of energy into hiring necessary staff, training us in evidence-based therapies to treat those problems, setting up specialty programs, so like this women's residential program. But we have this massive deficit and a huge economic crunch, and who knows what's going to happen with the new Congress and the new administration. So if I can't imagine that the same spending is going to continue regarding mental health issues has taken a much higher priority than it did before. And if we weren't in this terrible, terrible economic situation, it's reasonable to expect that we would have even further funding of those things, because we still don't have the resources we need, but it's better. But I don't know. We may be cut, and we don't, literally we don't know yet.
So we have to
How's
end
that
the
for
war.
an
So we have to.
non-answer?
So we have to end the war to afford to treat the vets.
Well, no, I mean, we have this much bigger economic issue right now.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Any other questions I can't answer?
Are you aware of any studies that look at multi-generational family involvement in military service, generation after the Korean War and the Vietnam War and so on? Is that, if there is any research, does it show that the coping abilities are better when you have multi-generational support, or
Yeah.
anything that?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, I apologize, we're way outside my, that's not a territory in the scientific literature that I even read very often, so I don't know.
What about your clinical judgment?
Well, I've certainly heard discussions about, on one hand, that can really fortify people, in that I'm identifying with a proud family tradition, and certainly aside from the alienation, like we talked about, you know, the Vietnam vets coming back to some very abusive sorts of responses from the society at large. If I'm coming back to a family who honors me, is proud of me for that, that's huge. On the other hand, though, you know, I've heard some speculate, I don't think anybody studied this, but I'm hearing a number of people speculate about how much does that set up young men and women to sign up for the military and go off to war, who might not otherwise have done so, or who might not really be ready. You know, folks who might be vulnerable and they're going because of a family